Elara Cade had always believed that preparation and logic could carry her through anything. She had studied the Academy's manuals, memorized every tactical protocol, and trained for years in the simulation halls. Today, however, she found herself facing something she had never anticipated. A glitch in the system that would place her in a class she was neither ready for nor allowed to be in. The Academy stretched endlessly across the sky, a floating fortress that glimmered with metal panels and glass windows. Drones zipped through the corridors, delivering supplies and updates to cadets like clockwork. Everything was precise, efficient, predictable. Until today. Elara's morning had started like any other. She logged into the assignment terminal expecting to see her schedule for simulation training, but the screen displayed something impossible. Siege class assigned. Her stomach sank. The Siege class was the Academy's most extreme program. It was reserved for soldiers who had already proven themselves in field operations, for cadets who could handle live combat scenarios without hesitation. Elara was neither of those things. She stared at the screen in disbelief. "This has to be a mistake," she muttered under her breath. She tapped the screen again. The assignment remained. Red letters flashed at the bottom. "System override accepted. Proceed to assigned class immediately." Panic crept into her chest. She had trained for simulations, not real siege tactics. Yet the system insisted. There was no option to appeal. The Academy ran on efficiency, and the AI that controlled assignments didn't tolerate hesitation. Elara took a deep breath and reminded herself of everything she had learned. Stay calm. Observe first. Adapt. She grabbed her standard-issue tactical pack and headed to the transport pads. The corridors were crowded with cadets heading to their respective classes. Some glanced at her as she walked past, suspicion in their eyes. Siege-class cadets were expected to be the best, and they didn't welcome outsiders lightly. The transport pad hummed as she stepped onto it. With a flash of light, she was whisked away to the siege arena. The doors opened, revealing a massive expanse that stretched farther than any simulation she had ever experienced. Walls rose like towers, scaffolding crisscrossed the open spaces, and trenches cut deep into the ground. Drones hovered silently above, waiting to deploy whatever challenges the instructors had prepared. Elara's heart pounded as she stepped onto the training floor. Cadets in full siege armor were already there, sizing her up. Their faces were hard, expressionless, and full of judgment. She felt their eyes like blades, questioning why someone like her, so young, so inexperienced, was among them. At the center of the arena stood Commander Rowe. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and carried the presence of someone who had seen countless battles and emerged victorious. His eyes scanned the group with a cold precision, stopping briefly on Elara. A faint, unreadable expression crossed his face before he continued his survey. Elara forced herself to stand tall. "You belong here, even if the system says so. You have to belong." The cadets whispered among themselves. "She's a glitch," one muttered. "Who let her in here?" another scoffed. "She won't survive the first hour." Elara ignored them. Words didn't matter here. Actions did. She waited, observing the arena. Her eyes darted over the barricades, the towers, the hidden entrances. She mentally mapped the paths she could take, the points where she could take cover, and where ambushes might occur. Commander Rowe raised a hand, and the arena fell silent. "Today's session will be different," he said. His voice was calm but carried an edge that made cadets straighten instinctively. "The simulation will proceed without oversight. Cameras are offline." A collective gasp went through the room. The Academy's cameras monitored every move, every strategy, every mistake. They were the safeguard of every cadet. Without them, there was no one to intervene, no one to correct errors. Elara's heart skipped a beat. "Offline," she whispered. Rowe's eyes met hers. "There is no simulation today. There is only the arena. Your skills and your choices. Proceed accordingly. He signaled, and a series of doors opened throughout the arena. Mechanized units rolled out from hidden compartments, and automated turrets lit up the corners of the arena. What should have been a controlled environment now felt dangerously real. Ilara took a cautious step forward. Her training kicked in, though she had never experienced anything like this. She moved behind a barricade, crouched, and observed the first wave of units. They weren't behaving like the simulation drones she knew. Their movements were unpredictable, almost intelligent. The other cadets reacted quickly, some charging ahead aggressively, others hesitating. Ilara noted the patterns, the speed, and the weaknesses in the unit's patrol routes. Her mind raced. She had to find a way to survive the first engagement, and then prove herself. A loud clang echoed through the arena as one of the advanced cadets triggered a trap, sending debris crashing down near her. Ilara ducked instinctively, narrowly avoiding injury. The arena's environment was part of the test, shifting and reacting dynamically. Every wall, every platform, every corridor could be used to her advantage, or her destruction. Ilara realized she had to move, to take initiative before the chaos swallowed her. She darted from cover to cover, using agility and quick thinking to avoid patrol drones and mechanized units. She noticed a small console near a barricade, likely used by instructors to alter the arena's environment. It was damaged, but the display flickered, showing partial control over the traps. She filed the information in her mind for later use. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The cadets were tested relentlessly. Some fell behind, some froze, and a few attempted reckless heroics that failed spectacularly. Ilara focused on staying alive, observing her enemies, and anticipating Ro's unseen evaluations. Every decision had consequences. She encountered a squad of cadets who had taken an aggressive position on higher ground. They eyed her warily. "You shouldn't be here," one said, voice tense. "I don't have a choice," Ilara replied calmly, "but I can help you survive." The words were met with suspicion, but necessity outweighed pride. They agreed to move as a group, coordinating attacks and defenses in ways Ilara had only practiced in theory. Her strategies were unconventional, using traps and terrain to offset the skill gap. Slowly, she earned their tentative trust. Commander Ro watched silently from his vantage point, his presence a shadow that loomed over every decision. The cadets couldn't see him, but they felt it, the sense that someone was always watching, evaluating, and judging. By the time the first wave of mechanized units was neutralized, the cadets were exhausted but alive. Ilara's mind was a whirlwind of calculations, but she felt a spark of pride. She had survived the initial chaos, adapted to a situation no training could fully prepare her for, and had begun to gain respect from those who had doubted her. The arena remained dangerous, unpredictable, and alive with threats, yet Ilara understood something vital. Survival here wasn't just about strength or speed. It was about observation, adaptation, and courage under pressure. And if she could master these, she might not only survive the siege class, but redefine what it meant to be a cadet in the academy. As the cadets regrouped, Commander Ro finally spoke again. "The cameras are still offline. Every move you make will be recorded only in your actions. Prove that the system's glitch was not a mistake." Ilara met his gaze, determination hardening her features. She didn't know what awaited her next, but one thing was clear. The siege class would test her in ways no simulation ever could. And for the first time, she felt a thrill that no routine training could give. A thrill of real challenge, real danger, and the chance to rise above expectations. The siege arena was no longer just a place of practice. It had become a living puzzle, dangerous and unpredictable. Ilara moved carefully, her senses alert to every sound, every shadow. The cadets around her were tense, some still unsure if she truly belonged in this class. The air was thick with metal, dust, and the faint hum of the drones that hovered silently above, ready to attack at the slightest trigger. Commander Rowe's presence was felt more than seen. The cameras remained dead, their absence creating a chilling sense of isolation. No one would know what happened here unless they survived. The silence weighed on the cadets, pressing them toward mistakes. Every wrong step could mean injury or worse. Alara took a deep breath and scanned the arena again. Walls rose and fell in unpredictable sequences, barricades shifted, and the floor beneath her feet seemed almost alive, vibrating with mechanical energy. It was a far cry from the simulations she had trained for. In simulations, mistakes could be reset, errors erased. Here, consequences were immediate and real. A sudden clang echoed from a nearby tower. 2 cadets scrambled to investigate, their voices tight with panic. Alara hesitated only a moment before following at a measured pace, keeping low to avoid detection. She realized that the instructor had no intention of letting anyone move blindly. Every corner of this arena was a test of awareness, strategy, and courage. As they reached the tower, Alara noticed a small control panel, partially hidden behind a steel column. Its interface flickered faintly. She crouched and examined it, realizing it could be used to manipulate some of the arena's mechanisms. Doors, traps, and even drone pathways. She didn't touch it immediately. She needed to understand the patterns first. Suddenly, automated turrets fired, sweeping the floor with precision. Cadets ducked behind cover, and one of them fell hard, rolling and cursing. Ilara's mind raced. She analyzed the turret's rotation, noting a brief blind spot just long enough to dash across the floor. Timing was everything. She counted silently, then sprinted. The ground vibrated under her feet as she slid behind cover. Her pulse pounded, but she had survived. "Not bad," whispered one of the cadets, a tall boy with a scar across his cheek. Maybe the system made a good choice. Alara gave him a brief nod. Praise was unnecessary. Survival was the only measure that mattered here. They continued through the arena, moving in small, cautious groups. Alara began to notice subtle cues, tiny noises in the vents. Slowly, trust began to form, though it was fragile and tentative. Hours passed, or so it seemed. The line between training and real danger blurred as the arena shifted unpredictably. Walls collapsed without warning, new obstacles appeared, and the drones became increasingly aggressive. Alara realized that the instructor was not merely testing physical skill. He was testing decision-making under pressure, teamwork in crisis, and the ability to adapt when the environment itself was hostile. At one point, a cadet panicked and ran toward an exit that had just sealed shut. A mechanical trap swung down, narrowly missing her. Alara lunged, grabbing the cadet and pulling her back into cover. "Stop moving without thinking," she hissed. "Watch the patterns. Predict the traps." The cadet nodded, her eyes wide with fear and respect. Alara realized that leadership here was as important as agility or strategy. One wrong order, or one wrong move, could cost lives. Later, they encountered a heavily defended area where multiple drones converged. The squad froze, unsure how to proceed. Alara studied the drones' movement, noticing that their patrol paths overlapped in predictable ways. She gestured for the cadets to split into 2 groups. "Distract them." "I'll go for the control panel," she instructed. With careful timing, the distraction worked. Drones focused on the moving cadets, leaving gaps in their defense. Alara sprinted to the control panel, hands flying over the interface. She activated a sequence that temporarily disabled the nearest turrets, giving her squad a brief window to advance. The maneuver was risky. One wrong command could have triggered the traps or reactivated the drones. But it worked. The cadets moved through the area safely, and for a moment, Alara felt a surge of confidence. She was beginning to understand the rhythm of the arena, the way the instructor manipulated events to push cadets beyond fear and hesitation. Even as they advanced, Rowe remained unseen, his presence a constant shadow over every action. Elara imagined him watching from somewhere high above, noting every decision, every hesitation, every success. It was unnerving, but also strangely motivating. She wanted to prove not only that she could survive, but that she could lead, strategize, and excel where others doubted her. As the team reached a central corridor, a new threat emerged. A simulated chemical hazard released from vents along the ceiling. The gas was harmless but disorienting, clouding vision and making movement difficult. Cadets coughed and stumbled, panic rising. Elara stayed calm, guiding them to cover and instructing them on breathing techniques to maintain clarity. Her ability to stay composed in chaos earned her further respect. The exercise continued, growing more complex. Every decision had weight. Elara began noticing the patterns Ro used to test them. Sometimes danger was immediate and overt. Other times it was subtle, a weak support beam that could collapse, a drone that appeared inactive but could activate in seconds. She realized that the instructor wanted them to think several moves ahead, to anticipate not just the environment, but the instructor himself. At one point, the squad reached a junction with two paths. One was narrow and trapped. The other was wide but exposed to drones. Elara analyzed the risks. She chose the narrow path, guiding her squad carefully over the traps. A cadet protested, fearing exposure. "Trust me," she said firmly. Her confidence inspired them to follow, and the path proved safer than expected. The arena seemed endless. Time lost meaning as the cadets moved from obstacle to obstacle, from threat to threat. Alara's mind was sharp, constantly analyzing, predicting, adapting. She realized that the glitch that placed her here had also given her a unique perspective. She wasn't a seasoned veteran, but she was intelligent, observant, and willing to take calculated risks. By the time they reached a makeshift rest area, the squad was exhausted. Cadets slumped against walls, catching their breath. Elara allowed herself a brief moment to scan the arena again. The shifting walls, the silent drones, the flickering lights. They were all part of the test. She understood now that survival depended not just on individual skill, but on observation, adaptation, and the courage to make decisions when every option carried risk. As they regrouped, a soft hum echoed through the arena. Elara's heart leapt. She glanced at the cadets around her. Commander Ro had not yet intervened directly. Everything had been a test of instinct, teamwork, and resilience. She realized that the arena itself was a reflection of his philosophy. Chaos could reveal true skill, and true skill was measured by the ability to survive, adapt, and lead under pressure. Elara felt a strange mix of fear and exhilaration. She had survived the first major challenges, had begun to earn the trust of her squad, and had started to see the patterns in the chaos. She knew the arena would continue to test them, growing more difficult and unpredictable. But for the first time, she felt she could rise to meet it. The cadets settled into their positions, eyes wary, muscles tense. They had learned to respect each other and to trust Elara's guidance. She, in turn, had learned to rely on them, understanding that leadership was not about dominance, but about bringing out the best in others, even under extreme pressure. And somewhere in the shadows, Commander Ro watched. The cameras were dead, but his assessment continued. He would know who adapted, who led, and who faltered. Elara didn't know what awaited them next, but she felt ready. She had survived the first test, and she had proven something to herself, that courage, intelligence, and calm determination could overcome even the most unpredictable dangers. The arena shifted again, signaling the next phase. Turrets rotated, walls moved, and new drones deployed. Alara's pulse quickened. This was the true test of her abilities. But this time, she was not alone. Her squad trusted her, and she trusted herself. The siege class was no longer just a trial. It had become a proving ground, and Elara knew, deep in her bones, that she was ready to face whatever came next. The arena seemed to breathe around Elara and her squad. Every wall that shifted, every drone that hummed above, every trap that clicked into place reminded them that this was not a game. The earlier challenges had tested observation, patience, and teamwork. Now, the siege arena escalated into something far more dangerous. Alara led her squad through a narrow corridor, walls closing in on either side. The floor vibrated beneath their feet, a warning that danger was near. The cadets followed closely, trusting her judgments, though tension etched every line of their faces. Alara had learned quickly that hesitation could be fatal. She pushed the fear down and focused on calculation and instinct. Ahead, a section of the corridor collapsed without warning, sending a cloud of dust and debris into the air. The squad ducked, coughing, and Alara pulled out her breathing mask, signaling the others to do the same. The collapse revealed a secondary path, a narrow ledge that ran along the edge of a deep drop. It was risky, but it offered the only route forward without facing the newly deployed turrets directly. "This way," she whispered, motioning for the cadets to follow. Every step had to be careful. One misstep could send someone plummeting. They inched along the ledge, nerves tight, until they reached a wider platform. Here, Alara paused, scanning the arena for further threats. "Look alive," a cadet muttered. "They're everywhere." Alara nodded. "Keep moving. Watch the shadows and the patterns. Don't trust what you see at first glance." The arena shifted again. Walls slid apart, creating an open battlefield. Turrets emerged from hidden compartments, their sensors sweeping for movement. Automated drones advanced, and the cadets scrambled for cover. Alara calculated the timing of each turret sweep, mapping blind spots and synchronizing movement with her squad. She realized that the key was not just reacting, but controlling the environment. Her mind raced to recall the flickering control panel she had discovered earlier. If she could manipulate it now, she could create openings and distractions that would give them an advantage. "We split," she instructed. "Two groups. One distracts the drones, the other flanks through that narrow corridor." She pointed to the side passage that twisted behind a series of towers. The cadets hesitated, but obeyed. Trust had begun to solidify among them. The first group drew the drones' attention, moving swiftly and making noise to provoke them. Turrets locked on to their movement, tracking them relentlessly. Alara's squad moved through the narrow corridor, dodging sparks from malfunctioning panels and leaping over obstacles. She reached the control panel, hands flying over the interface as she activated a sequence that temporarily disabled two turrets and rerouted a few drones. "Go!" she shouted. Her squad surged forward, taking advantage of the brief reprieve. The drones, now confused, paused, giving them critical seconds to advance. The arena was alive with motion, noise, and the constant threat of collapse. Suddenly, a section of the wall in front of them shifted violently, revealing a pit that hadn't been there before. One cadet froze, fear rooting him to the spot. Alara grabbed his arm and pulled him back. "Move! Think ahead, not backward," she shouted. Together they navigated the new hazard, hearts racing. Alara noticed something unusual about the arena's patterns. The environmental hazards were no longer random. They seemed designed to provoke panic, to test instincts and leadership. The instructor's presence, though unseen, was a tangible force, pressing on every decision. As they advanced, the arena's challenges grew more complex. Automated turrets fired in unpredictable sequences. Drones swooped down from above, some carrying nets designed to immobilize. Alara's squad had to coordinate like never before. She shouted commands, timing movements precisely, her voice carrying authority born of necessity. A cadet tried to break away, attempting a solo maneuver that could have endangered the entire group. Alara reacted instantly, catching him by the shoulder and pulling him back into cover. "We move together," she said firmly. "One wrong step and we all pay." The cadet nodded, chastened, and the squad continued. Alara's leadership was becoming undeniable, her decisions increasingly respected. Even those who had doubted her at the start were now following her guidance, relying on her instincts and quick thinking. Hours passed, and fatigue began to set in. The cadets were running low on stamina, but the arena showed no mercy. A new wave of drones emerged, faster and more aggressive than before. Turrets rotated with calculated precision, and sections of the floor began to collapse under weight, forcing constant movement and adaptation. Alara realized that she could not rely solely on strategy and observation. Speed, improvisation, and courage were equally vital. She scanned the arena and spotted a high vantage point, partially shielded by debris. "Cover me," she instructed. "I'm going up." Cadets provided suppressive fire, distracting drones, and triggering traps to buy her time. Alara sprinted, leaped over obstacles, and climbed the debris to the vantage point. From there, she could see multiple paths, enemy positions, and weak spots in the turret's coverage. She relayed instructions to her squad, guiding them with precision. The squad moved with renewed coordination, neutralizing drones, avoiding traps, and navigating hazards with remarkable efficiency. Alara felt a surge of confidence. The arena had become a battlefield of wits and courage, and she was beginning to master it. But the challenges were far from over. As they reached a central chamber, a massive breach occurred. Walls collapsed, debris rained down, and a swarm of drones descended from above. The squad was forced into close quarters, relying on reflexes and quick thinking to survive. Alara shouted commands, directing each cadet to cover points, use obstacles, and protect one another. The fight was chaotic, but her guidance kept them alive. Her mind raced, calculating movements, predicting threats, and finding openings. The cadets followed her lead, their trust in her now complete. In the midst of the chaos, Alara noticed a faint flicker in the shadows. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it caught her attention. Someone, or something, was observing them closely. She realized that Commander Rowe had likely entered the arena himself, watching from the shadows. His presence was a silent challenge, pushing them further, testing them beyond survival. Alara's focus sharpened. She understood that this was more than a physical trial. The instructor was evaluating leadership, strategy, and the ability to make decisions under extreme pressure. Every move, every command, every calculation mattered. The squad fought through the breach, navigating collapsing walls and aggressive drones. Alara guided them to a temporary safe zone, a platform above the chaos. They paused, catching their breath, hearts pounding, adrenaline surging. "We've made it this far," Alara said, voice steady despite exhaustion. "But the arena isn't finished with us yet. Stay alert. Watch the walls, watch the floor. Watch each other. We move as one." The cadets nodded, determination etched into their faces. They had faced danger, chaos, and fear together, and they had survived. Alara's leadership had been tested, and she had proven herself capable. But she knew the arena would continue to escalate, pushing them to their limits and beyond. From the shadows, Commander Rowe watched silently, evaluating every decision, every action. The cameras remained dead, but he did not need them. The cadets' choices, their teamwork, and their courage were enough to reveal their true capabilities. Alara scanned the arena once more, calculating paths, hazards, and enemy positions. The next phase was coming, and it promised to be even more dangerous. But she felt a growing confidence, a sense of control in the chaos. She had learned to trust her instincts, to rely on her squad, and to think several steps ahead. As the arena shifted again, walls sliding into new formations and drones deploying from hidden compartments, Alara prepared her squad. They moved as one, coordinated and alert, ready to face whatever the instructor had planned next. The siege arena was no longer just a test of skill. It was a proving ground of intelligence, courage, and leadership. And Alara knew that survival here required more than just reflexes or training. It required vision, adaptability, and the unwavering determination to rise above every challenge. The next wave approached, faster and more relentless than anything before. Alara took a deep breath, her mind clear, her senses sharp. She would lead her squad through this chaos, and she would survive. For the first time, she truly understood the meaning of the siege class. It was not just about surviving the arena. It was about mastering it. And Alara was ready to prove that even a glitch could become the catalyst for greatness. The arena had transformed into a chaotic maze of collapsing walls, spinning turrets, and swarming drones. Alara Cade stood at the center with her squad, her body tense, her mind razor-sharp. Every heartbeat echoed the pressure of the siege. The earlier phases had tested their observation, strategy, and courage. Now the challenges escalated to a level that demanded not just skill, but innovation, leadership, and unwavering determination. Alara took a moment to assess the battlefield. From her elevated vantage point, she could see the movement of drones in a complex pattern, turrets rotating with mechanical precision, and sections of the floor buckling under stress. It was impossible to predict every hazard, but she had learned that survival depended on seeing opportunities where others saw only danger. She turned to her squad. "Listen carefully. This final phase will test everything we've learned. Follow my lead, trust your instincts, and trust each other." Her words resonated. The cadets had followed her through chaos before, and now they moved as a unified force. Each step, each decision, was coordinated, almost instinctual. Alara's strategies had become second nature to them, and their trust in her allowed her to focus on the bigger picture. The first wave struck immediately. Drones surged from hidden compartments, firing precise energy pulses. Turrets rotated in tight arcs, scanning for movement. The cadets scattered to cover, their training guiding them, but it was Alara's plan that would allow them to survive. "Move in, triangles!" she shouted. "2 flank left, 2 cover right. I'll trigger the override." The squad followed, splitting and maneuvering with precision. Alara sprinted to a control console she had discovered in Part 2, bypassing minor security protocols. Her fingers flew over the interface, activating a sequence that would temporarily shut down the most aggressive drones and turrets. Sparks flew as systems overloaded, and the advantage shifted to her squad. The drones faltered, unsure how to proceed without guidance. The turrets stuttered, their firing cycles disrupted. Alara signaled her squad forward, and they advanced with calculated urgency. But the arena was not done. Walls shifted violently, creating deep chasms and new obstacles. Sections of the floor collapsed beneath them, forcing rapid improvisation. One cadet slipped, nearly falling into a pit, but Alara's quick reflexes saved him. She pulled him up and whispered, "Focus. Every move counts." As they advanced deeper into the arena, Alara noticed a faint flicker in the shadows once more. The instructor, Commander Rowe, was here. Closer than ever. His presence was silent but imposing, watching their every decision. Alara didn't fear him. She welcomed the challenge. She understood that this was not only a physical test, but a trial of leadership and courage. The next obstacle was the most dangerous yet. A massive chamber opened before them, filled with spinning blades, electrified floors, and swarming drones. The cadets froze, but Alara's eyes scanned the environment. She noted the timing of the blades, the safe paths across electrified sections, and the predictable patterns in drone patrols. "This is it," she whispered. "Stick to the plan, and trust me, we move together." With precision, they navigated the chamber. Alara led the way, calculating every step, every leap, every pause. One miscalculation could have meant disaster, but the squad moved as one, following her guidance flawlessly. Midway through, a section of the floor collapsed, separating 2 cadets from the main group. The drones converged on them, their movements swift and deadly. Alara had seconds to decide. She analyzed the paths, identifying a narrow corridor above that could serve as a flanking route. "Cover me!" she shouted, sprinting toward the corridor. The cadets provided suppressive fire, drawing the drones away just long enough for her to reach the separated members. With quick thinking, she coordinated a rescue, guiding them back into safety. The squad regrouped, hearts racing, sweat pouring, but determination burning brighter than ever. They had survived the deadliest part of the arena, and Alara's leadership had been instrumental. Her ability to stay calm, analyze the environment, and make split-second decisions had saved lives. As they approached the final zone, the arena shifted one last time. The central command hub, a massive structure of steel and reinforced glass, appeared before them. This was the heart of the siege class, where control over the arena could be seized or lost. Alara's eyes scanned the hub. Control panels, security measures, and override consoles dotted the area. The cadets flanked her, ready to support any maneuver. She realized that this was the ultimate test, to take command of the environment itself. Split into 2 teams, she instructed. One disables the external defenses, the other secures the central console. Timing is critical. The cadets moved with precise coordination. Alara led the team securing the console, navigating traps and neutralizing drones with calm efficiency. Sparks flew and alarms blared, but she focused only on the task at hand. Every movement, every action was calculated. She reached the console and activated the override sequence. Screens flickered as systems acknowledged her input. Turrets powered down, drones ceased fire, and walls locked into safe positions. The arena fell silent for a moment, the chaos replaced by controlled order. And then Commander Rowe appeared. He stepped out from the shadows, his presence commanding and undeniable. The cadets froze for a moment, but Alara did not. She stood tall, meeting his gaze. "You've done well," Rowe said, voice calm but filled with authority. "Few survive this far, and even fewer lead effectively. Your decisions, your courage, and your leadership have been exemplary." Alara's chest swelled with pride, but she remained cautious. "Thank you, sir," she said. "But the arena isn't over until everyone is safe." Rowe nodded, acknowledging her focus and responsibility. "The cameras were offline for a reason. The system glitch that placed you here was no mistake. I needed to see how someone unexpected could perform under conditions no one else could endure. You have proven yourself, not just as a survivor, but as a leader." The cadets around her exchanged glances, realization dawning. The glitch had been an opportunity, and Alara had turned it into a triumph. Her quick thinking, strategic mind, and ability to inspire trust had transformed the squad into a cohesive unit capable of surviving chaos. Rowe gestured to the arena. "This test is complete. You have adapted where others would have failed. Remember this lesson. True skill is measured not by protocol or training alone, but by the ability to lead, to think independently, and to rise above any circumstance." The siege class had tested her limits, pushed her courage, and challenged her intelligence. She had faced the impossible and emerged not only alive, but victorious. As the squad left the central hub, the arena's systems reset. Walls returned to their original positions, drones powered down, and the hum of machinery quieted. The cadets walked with a newfound respect for each other, and for Alara, who had guided them through chaos with unmatched skill. Outside, the Academy's cameras flickered back online, capturing the aftermath. But it was not the footage that mattered. It was the experience, the leadership, the courage, and the innovation that had allowed a single cadet to turn a system glitch into an opportunity for greatness. Alara looked back at the arena one last time. The lessons she had learned here went beyond training manuals and simulations. She had discovered something fundamental about herself, that even in chaos, even when systems fail, true capability emerged from intelligence, courage, and the willingness to lead. Commander Rowe approached, his expression unreadable but approving. "You've changed the meaning of this class. Remember that. Adaptation and leadership will define the future of this academy, and perhaps the future of interstellar defense." Alara nodded, understanding the weight of his words. She had survived, yes, but she had also grown stronger, wiser, and more confident than she had ever imagined. The siege class had been more than a trial. It had been a crucible, forging a new kind of leader. As she walked away from the arena with her squad, exhaustion mingled with exhilaration. The cadets were no longer simply trainees. They were a team, tested and proven, and Alara, once an unexpected glitch, had become the force that held them together. The Academy would never forget this day, and neither would she. The siege class had been relentless, terrifying, and unforgiving, but it had also revealed the true measure of courage and leadership. Alara Kade had emerged from the crucible not just as a survivor, but as a cadet who could inspire, guide, and excel in the face of chaos. For the first time, she allowed herself a small smile. The cameras may have been offline, the system may have glitched, and the challenges may have seemed insurmountable, but she had faced them all, and she had triumphed. And somewhere in the shadows, Commander Rowe watched, knowing that he had discovered something rare and invaluable. The Academy had found its future, not in protocols or systems, but in the courage, intelligence, and leadership of a single cadet who refused to fail. Alara stepped onto the transport pad, leaving the arena behind. The hum of the machinery faded, replaced by the calm of the Academy corridors. Yet, in her mind, the lessons remained alive. The rhythm of the drones, the shifting walls, the constant pressure of the unknown. She had survived the siege class, but she had also grown into something more. A leader capable of facing the unpredictable, the dangerous, and the impossible. And as the transport pad carried her away, she knew that no system glitch, no unexpected challenge, could ever define her limits again.